Today I want to tell you the story of Jairus and the bleeding woman. So Jesus and his closest followers had just landed on the lake shore, and there were already people there. They were lined up, they were waiting there everywhere. And this religious leader came up named Jairus, and he fell at Jesus' feet and he said, Jesus, my 12-year-old daughter is sick. She's close to death, but I know that if you just lay hands on her, you can heal her. Please come to my house. Jesus agrees, so they start to go towards this man's house, but the crowd follows and they're just pressing in around them. There's so many. Well, in this crowd, there's this woman that has been bleeding for 12 years, and she spent everything she had on doctors, and no one could help her. In fact, she'd gotten worse. But she knew that if she could just touch his robe, she could just touch Jesus's robe, she would be healed. So she pushes through the crowd and she makes her way and she touches his robe, and immediately the bleeding stops, and she knows it. She knows she's been healed. But Jesus also felt the power go out of him, and he stops and he turns and he says, who touched me? And his closest followers say, Teacher, there are people everywhere. We're being pressed in on. What do you mean, who touched you? But he knows that someone has touched him, and he knows that he's done something. And the woman knows that he knows. So she comes forward and she falls at his feet and she tells him everything. And he says, daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. This will never trouble you again. Well, during this time, people had come from Jairus' house, and they said, you do not need to bother the teacher any longer. Your daughter has died. And Jesus overhears them, and he says, don't be afraid, just believe. So he leaves the crowd behind, and he takes 3 of his closest followers and Jairus, and they go to his house. And when they get there are people outside, and they're wailing for this little girl. And they go inside, and there are even more people, and they're wailing for this little girl. And Jesus says, why are you crying? The little girl's not dead, she's sleeping. Well, when he says this, people start to mock him and laugh at him. So he makes them leave. And his 3 closest followers and Jairus and his wife go into his daughter's room. Jesus goes and kneels at the girl's bed, and he takes her hand and he says, daughter, get up. Girl, get up. And at that, she sits up and she begins to walk around the room. Jesus tells them to go and get her something to eat and not to tell anyone what they had seen.